Good morning, boys and girls. It's Mrs. Peters, and I'm here to do the math lesson for week 1 with you. I'm going to model how to complete Monday's lesson so that you will also do the same for Tuesday's, Wednesday, and Thursday lesson. So each day when you're ready to do your lesson, come back and review this video as a reminder on how to complete the lesson. We're going to start with the first week, like I said, and that is the worksheet that is Weekly Math Review Quarter 1, Colon 1. And I'm going to model each box on Monday and how to complete it because you will be doing the same thing on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday on how to complete those activities. So let's start with the first section on Monday. It says, how many dots are on the dice? So what we need to do is we need to count the number of dots on the dice. Some of you might be able to just look at it and know, and some of us might need to count. And when we count, we want to make sure we're touching each dot as we count. 1, 2, 3. So there are 3 dots on the dice. Now we need to write that number here on these lines. We have a top line, a dotted line, and a bottom line to be our guides in writing our numbers correctly. We're going to write the number 3 because that represents how many dots are on the dice. So when I write it, I'm going to start at the top line, and I'm going to curve around to the dotted line. I'm going to trace it back to the bottom line and curve it around, and there's number 3. You will do the same for the dice next to it. Count it, write the number on the lines below, and you will do that same thing on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Now, the next section says write the number. We need to write number 1. Again, I want to make sure I'm using my guidelines. I'm going to start at that top line, and I make a straight line all the way down to the bottom line, and I have number 1. I'll do it again. Start at my top line, straight line to the bottom line. Now, you will continue and fill this in, writing the number 1. Now the next thing we have to do is write the number, but this time we're not writing in a numerical form. We're going to be writing in what we call word form. We're going to be spelling the number 1 using letters to spell 1. Again, we want to make sure we're using these guidelines, top line, dotted line, bottom line, to write our letters. You can see where we're going to be starting is the dotted line for these 3 letters. And we always want to start at the top. So I'm going to trace the O, and I want to start at the top, so I'm starting on the dotted line. I'm going to go all the way down and around and back. Now I'm going to trace letter N. Again, I start at the top line, straight line down, I trace it back up, curve around and down to that bottom line. Now I'm going to do letter E. I don't start at the top for letter E. When I write a letter E correctly, I start here. So it means it's kind of tricky. I start below the dotted line, and I make a straight line first, then I curve up to that dotted line, back around and down to the bottom line. So now I'll write one for you. It didn't show. So O, I started at the dotted line, I curve around to the bottom line, back up to the dotted line. Now I'm going to do N. Start at the dotted line, trace down to the bottom line, back up to that dotted line and around to the bottom line. Now I'm ready for that tricky letter E. I don't start on my dotted line. I'm going to start below the dotted line, making that straight line out. Curve it up to the dotted line, back around to the bottom line. Okay, you will finish writing it out. And then on Tuesday, you will do the same thing. Write the number word, and Wednesday and Thursday is the same. Now the next section says draw 1 circle. So I'm going to draw 1 circle, and when I draw my shapes, I always start at the top to make a shape just like I do in writing letters and numbers. So I go from the top, curve around to the bottom and back around, and I have 1 circle. The last section is the same for Tuesday, but on Wednesday and Thursday is different. So I'm going to show you how to do Monday so you know how to do Tuesday and then we will talk about Wednesday and Thursday. So in this section, it says choose a room in your house, count the squares. How many squares did you find? So this is asking us to look for objects in our house that represent the shape of the square. So I'm gonna walk over here. I'm in my kitchen and I'm gonna look and see if I can find a square. And I see a candle that's in my kitchen and the top of it is shaped like a square. I know it's a square because we're gonna review that. Remember, a square has 4 sides, 4 vertices, and the sides are equal in length. Okay? If I look around some more, let's see what else I can find. Oh, napkins here. If I pull this napkin out, it's shaped like a square because it has those 4 sides, 4 vertices, and they are all equal in length, the sides. Okay, so there's my example. I found 2. I'm sure if I look around, I could find more, but I'm just gonna go right there with 2 so we can keep moving on our lesson today. So now I have to write the number 2 to represent how many squares I found. So again, I use my guidelines, top line, dotted line, bottom line. So I start at the top, like always. I'm gonna start a little bit below that black line, so 2 has that curve in it. And I curve up to that top line, and then I curve it down in a slanted line to the bottom line, and then I make a straight line back on the bottom line. Okay, now again for Tuesday, I said you're gonna do the same thing. Count the number of circles though in your home and find objects that are shaped like circles. Now when you do this, try to pick a different room. Don't do the same room you did today. Like I did my kitchen today, I might move to the bedroom or the living room. Okay, so find a different room and count the objects and then write that number on the guided lines of how many objects you found. Okay, as I said, this section is different for Wednesday and Thursday. So on Wednesday and Thursday, we're talking about location. Location is where an object is located related to another object. So when doing that, we used, if you remember, the words above, below, and next to. So on this worksheet, it's asking us to draw a triangle above the circle. That's for Wednesday. For Thursday, it's asking you to draw a square below the triangle. So let's review those words real quick. And I brought this little frog and log, and we're going to put the frog in different locations related to the log. So if I start with that first word it asked me to talk about was above. I need to put Mr. Frog above the log. So I put him above. Now Mr. Frog is located above the frog. Next, I'm going to do next to. I'm going to put Mr. Frog next to the log. And he is next to the log. This is the location next to. He's next to the log on the right side. And now I can put him next to the log on the left side. My next thing is to do is put Mr. Frog below the log. So I'm going to take Mr. Frog and place him below the frog. So now he is located below the frog. So when you complete the worksheet on Wednesday and Thursday, you're just going to draw the shape. So a triangle, you will draw a triangle above this circle. Then on Thursday, you will draw a square below this triangle. So come back to this video and review those words and then complete the activity drawing above and below. Thanks for joining me, boys and girls, today. I really enjoyed doing this activity with you. Now, what I would like to see you doing as you're still working on your math is to challenge yourself. Some of us are great writing our numbers 1 to 20. Keep that up. Then see if you can increase it by the next 10 and write your numbers 1 to 30. And then from there, go 1 to 40. Some of us are already writing our numbers 1 to 50 to 1 to 100. Keep that up. Do those challenges. Take a picture for Mrs. Ramirez, Mrs. Baker, and Mrs. Bush and myself. Post it to your class dojo so we can see your challenge yourself and still working those numbers. We love seeing the work that you can do. We really miss you, and we hope that you are working hard. And Mrs. Peters will see you for the next lesson. Have a great week.